Thank you for joining me this evening. Sorry it was late me advertising this workshop, but I really didn't think I was going to have a chance to put a workshop on tonight, but I managed to fit it in. So that was my apologies for that late post. I wanted to go over HDR again because I get the impression by some of the fantastic images which have been posted up on our Flickr group, it would be worthwhile maybe looking at that again. So what I'm going to do is we'll go straight to the Flickr group, look at some of the images which have been posted up, and then also I wanted to show you my preferred program using HDR effects, which is part of the Nick software plugin program, which basically I use from Lightroom. So let's go straight to the Flickr site. I'm again using Safari for this presentation, so if the screen does go strange in the presentation, just stick with it for a little while. I've got a monitor on here as well, so if I can see it's not going quite right, then I can obviously check it out with what's going on. So yeah, it's on my laptop there, so excuse me while I look over there to make sure the presentation is going through. Let's kill the sound so you don't get a double whammy of me. That's the last thing you need. So let's go to screen share, and let's check out what in actual fact is going on here with regards to our latest uploads on our Flickr site. Start the screen share. It's going to go a bit weird, I know, and then it'll settle down. We'll go back to, where is the page? There it is there. Hopefully you can now see this. I'm waiting for it to basically work on here. What in actual fact I've done here, I'm just going to waffle for a little while I wait for my site to actually show up on the on my laptop, just to make sure that the screen is working okay, because I've got no outside source of telling me whether the screen is good or whether I'm getting this this sort of tunnel vision effect, which sometimes no, you're getting a good picture, which is great, and I'm fingers crossed that'll work for Lightroom when we switch over to it. So anyway, the reason why I've started on the discussion page is I encourage you to make comments on people's the guys within the groups and their photographs, and it's been fantastic to see that. So thanks to everyone who's been making comments on other people's work and a little bit of encouragement, and that's really top slot. Fantastic. But what I wanted to do in actual fact show first of all, Thorpe very kindly sent me a notice in the discussion as regards to what in actual fact was going on with that image, if you remember, of the balconies, and he gives a very, very good synopsis of what in actual fact he thinks happened with the image. And he thought he was shooting with Velvia 50 stock, but it is indeed Portra 800. And as it goes on, he describes when he took the shot and the type of atmosphere, the type of time of day and everything else, which details exactly why we got that color. In actual fact, I thought when I looked at it first off, I thought he had done some form of a cross process on the film, because remember Thorpe uses film as his basis for photography, not a digital camera. Or maybe he'd taken the scanned image into Lightroom and had done some trickery in Lightroom to create an analog image, but he hasn't. It just goes through explaining exactly what happened, what he thinks happened with the image, and puts it down to the use of Portra and basically the time of day that he took the shot. Thank you so much for putting that in there, Thorpe. It underlines really a great way of us being able to converse with regards to if we're unsure of how a particular image was created. And please, I encourage everyone to do that if by chance I turn around and say, I don't know what you've done here, so could you please explain it to me? So the next thing I want to go is go straight to the photos. I'm just checking that we're okay with the live feed. I think we are. I'm just a little bit behind schedule. But let's go straight to some images here, and I'm really pleased that you've taken the HDR effect to heart and have thought seriously about how you can use it as we have described subtly. So first image that came up, taken by Etsy. I don't think this was an HDR image, but it's nonetheless a bit of fun. Great portrait, cross-eyed person looking at it. Obviously, it's a lady looking at you, I'm assuming. And yeah, it's a bit of fun. Beautifully and sharp. Let's go nice and close. Look at that lovely sharp images on the eyes and the eyelashes, and a little bit of blur on the fingers. That's fine. And then we can see the eyelashes and eyebrows. So it's beautifully in focus. Lovely shot. Thank you, Etsy, for sharing that with us. 27 favorites. Well done. I always like to keep an eye on the favorites because that is very important for you, and that you're getting recognition. So we're going to get on to some HDR effects here, and Stephen has really pulled out a great shot here. Well done, Stephen. Using the subtlety of HDR, he's bracketed 7 images from +3 to -3 on the EVR of his camera, and then he's taken it into Lightroom and created the image from there using those 7 images. It doesn't actually say which HDR program he used, but that doesn't matter because he's got a beautiful balance here. Nothing is overdone. And we know now with the HDR, you wouldn't have got this detail in the lower foreground if you'd wanted that beautiful, I'm going to stick my neck out here, sunset. It is a sunset, well done. Or if you'd exposed for the sunset, you wouldn't have got the detail in the bottom. Or if you'd exposed for the detail in the base of the image, he would have blown the sunset out. So a great bit of work here, and beautifully done because he's got the haze of the image showing through using the HDR. So Stephen, beautiful shot. Thank you for sharing that. Thorpe has gone for a mono image here using Photomatics Pro. Photomatics is a very popular HDR program, and I really like this. Again, you know, we've got the reflection of the car here. Beautiful depth. You've got some detail in the dark shadows around, and obviously the highlights are held in place. They're not blown out. A little bit of something going on as he recognized there's a haze in the air, so he reckons that's the reason why we've got a funny starburst around the side light there of the street. In saying that though, F8, it could have been something to do with the f-stop as well, maybe, but merged it in Photomatics and then imported it into Lightroom and slightly reduced in clarity and shadow. And this is very important point you're making here, Thorpe, the reduction of clarity and shadow, which does in actual fact bring back a subtlety in the HDR. So thanks for sharing that. The next image, back to Stephen again, a great image, love this. And of course, with an HDR image, 7 images he's sandwiched together here. He goes into great detail as regards to where he took it on the Chilterns there. It's a beautiful, beautiful shot. Again, if he'd exposed for the sun there, this would have all been no detail at all. No detail at all. If he'd exposed for the windmill and the foreground, this would have all been blown out completely in the top right-hand corner of the image. So using HDR and using it subtly has really given us a fantastic image. And I'm really so pleased that you guys have sharing these images, whether you've done HDR before or whether me making a comment about it has piqued your interest. But this is quality HDR work. This is not where when it first came out, people were taking it to the nth degree and making it really grungy. It's a great shot. Nice image here. Thorpe has done of 9 images. Wow. From +4 to -4, which you can do with the X100T, I believe. Now I've said that, I'm not 100% sure. There may be a little bit of extra what he's done there, because I know that if you do a -3 to 0 and then a 0 to +3, you build up your images that way. So Thorpe, drop us an email again. I noticed. Have you done that? Thank you very much. I don't think the X100T does + or -4 on the EV counter. I'm pretty certain it's + to -3, but you've done something there, so please let me know. I'll be interested. But again, using the HDR, beautiful detail in the shop of the coffee shop, and then again, detail on the outside, and then on the basically the blue sky and the darker trees there. Again, using HDR subtly, and that, to my mind, is what HDR should be used for. Now, Christopher posted this image up, and I must be honest, when I saw it, I thought to myself, okay, it's a great shot. I think you could have done all the work for HDR in Lightroom, because really, I think it's just a case of lightening up the bringing up some highlights and increasing the shadows in this area here would have done exactly what you needed to do. Now, if we go to the next one, and I appreciate you giving us the two options here, because it really does show you what can be done. And there is a query here: found the sky on the hill on the Java Indian reservation, but not in the same location. This is my first try at it, looking for help. Are you saying that you put the sky in behind? That sounds to me as you've done a bit of a photo merge. If you have, you've done it very, very well. But if we go to the next one, which is your HDR version, I think it's slightly overexposed. And I would have liked to have seen you stick with the original version. I think you've got great detail. I think I'm going the right way here. Let me just make sure before I say any more, because I don't want to put my foot in the mouth, so to speak. I'm going to assume that that is the HDR version, the second image, and this is the original. And I like this cloud. I like the dark blue, and I think this detail of the I'm going to call it a mountain range, could have been handled just in Lightroom alone by increasing the detail in the shadows by just moving that slider to the plus side, and then just dropping the highlights a little bit. Interested to hear what you say. Give it a try, Christopher, on Lightroom and see what you think, because I think this is where Lightroom can be taken too far. Or you stick with this one and you drop the exposure a little bit on this image when you take it back into Lightroom. But nonetheless, thanks for sharing both images, because that really did give me a good insight into what it was before and what it was after you've done the work. And I've got to be honest with you, I prefer the first one, and I think you could have just increased the shadow detail and you would have got, in my opinion, a better result. Moving on, Justin, great shot this, Justin. You've brought a little bit of you've done the HDR image equivalent by leaving the highlights and just increasing the shadows. And this is what I'm suggesting to you, Christopher, which I think you could have done with that last one. You've got a beautiful long exposure here, Justin. You've exposed it for the highlights, but basically what you've done, which a lot of people do forget to do, is to adjust those shadows just purely in Lightroom, and you've achieved it well here. You say an HDR image. I don't think you've sandwiched or put together 2 or 3 images. I think you've just taken the one image and you've increased the shadows. And if that is what you've done, it's a beautiful, beautiful bit of work. It's a little bit analog, isn't it? Bit of an analog type look to it. A little bit of yellow here and greeny blues here, and it's I really like this image. It's different, and it's a very pleasant image to look at. Thanks for sharing that, Justin. This one here by Steve Perkins, well, I can say just one word: wow. And I think that's all I'm going to say, because you look at the detail in this, and I think really it's taken with a Fuji X-T1. A lot of guys would say, look, they got blur in the stars, but you've got to remember, when you're taking star images, they're always moving, and he's using a 13th of a second here, so it's bound to be some movement. 1.8 open, and he's 16 millimeter on the camera. Oh, X-T1, sorry, not the X-T100, X-T1, 16 mil, 1.4, 1.8's been left open at 13th of a second, ISO high at 2500. Look at that, fantastic detail. And you could go hunting around this and see basically all these stars. It's a wow. Thanks for sharing it, Stephen. Really loved looking at this image. And to see that sky like that at night time, well, I haven't seen it like that since I was a young kid when I went down to Cornwall. You don't see it in London because of the bright lights of the city. Straight shot from Grant. I think Grant might be a new member joining us. I haven't seen him before. If you have been on before, Grant, my apologies. Taken with the X Pro 2. Yes, I was using this camera last Friday. I bought myself the X Pro 1, and I'm going to do a review of the X Pro 1 compared to some images I took with the X Pro 2. And given the X Pro 2 is a 24 megapixel camera, I think the X Pro 1 is standing up quite well against its upgraded version of camera. 1855 is probably one of my favorite Fuji lenses. It's a beautiful image here, shot in RAW, PP, HDR in Lightroom, CCR. Yes, you're giving it a balance. I can see that. I would like to have known, you've got lovely reflections, as Stevens mentioned. And I agree with you. The great thing about HDR is this ability to get a depth of quality of image, but not to go over the top and not to oversaturate. And once you start oversaturating something, I think we start losing the greatness of HDR. Yes, the X Pro 2 is, might I add, I am a Fuji lover, as you know, a bit of an awesome camera. Another one here by Justin. Adjusting just the shadows. I like your work, Justin. You're doing really, really good work. Again, a little bit of an analog type look to it. This is lovely. EOS 6D. 5.6, 1/320th of a second at ISO 400. Lovely image. It's not very often that you would think a lovely image can be created by a huge oil tanker, but this one is. I like this lovely leading line here. The tanker almost mirroring that angle. Beautiful. There's nothing blown out here at all. You've got detail in the shadows because you've adjusted the shadows. You've left the highlights alone, and it's a lovely image. Well done. Finally, Vivian Maya Exposition. Now, I can't work this image out, to be quite honest with you, Kaja. So if you'd be kind enough to drop us a line, there must be a meaning behind it. It's not an HDR image, obviously, or else we would see the individual's face. And obviously, the image is behind at an exhibition. It's different. I'll give you that. It's different. Personally, I'd like to see a little bit more detail of the face, but there must be a reason for it. So I'm going to say, Kaja, put some description in the discussions and we can discuss on it further. Thank you so much for everyone putting your images up on the Flickr site. It really is fantastic. And I just love the way you guys are commenting about each other's work. And I encourage you to do that more. So thanks again for doing that. So what I wanted to do today was came out of the shared screen for the moment just to say what I was going to do. Last week, I showed you how to basically create an HDR just using Lightroom from a single image, reducing the highlights and increasing the shadows. And we saw one example of just increase the shadows is an ideal option if, as long as you've got all the detail there. But there does come a time where you need to do some HDR work if you want to capture the lighter areas and also the darker areas at the same time. That's basically it in a nutshell, to be quite honest with you. So let's go to screen share, because the other option to do is to is what I term as the cheat in Lightroom. So again, I've taken an image of my fields trip that I took a few years ago, and you can see here the original idea that I had. We're probably just gone a little bit over the top with the water, but the greens are so green in the Norwegian fields, and it's one thing which you're aghast at it, to be honest with you. And this is the original. So what I'm going to do is show you how basically I, in actual fact, would take this into an HDR program just by having just the one single image. Okay, so we're in the develop module. I'm just going a little bit slowly because I want to see what actually comes up on the screen, because I've noticed when I've been doing presentations for you using Lightroom, you don't see the left and right menu bars and the develop module side of the of Lightroom. So I'm just sort of going a little bit slowly, but suffice to say, if you in actual fact take let's go back into library, sorry, and select okay, that's just typical, isn't it? We've just gone and had a little crash on our hands, so just bear with me. Typical. Isn't that amazing? This is where you have to say talk amongst yourselves. My external hard drive decided to crash on me, and that meant that my images were lost, and I hope that's not going to affect what I do. If it is, I'll cut the broadcast, get it sorted, and I'll come back. But effectively what I'm trying to do is to